Welcome back to another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. I'm your host, Mitch Lafon, and I'm joined again by Talking Metal's Mark Striegel. Good day,
Yes.
Mark.
Good day, Mitch. How are you?
Good, good.
Let me ask you something. You said good day. Now, us Americans growing up in the early 80s always heard that phrase from the McKenzie brothers, who, Bob and Doug McKenzie would say good day. Is that a Canadian thing? Good day?
Yeah, I think so. I've also heard it a lot with the Bob and Doug, but also with Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I think
Australian.
it might be more of a British Empire kind of thing that we've all
Right.
adapted. But yeah, good day. And
Good
you know
day.
what? To be honest, about 3 minutes before I got on here with you, I was talking to some guy in Australia, so I probably have it fresh in my brain as well.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
There you go. See?
Good
So
day.
good day, folks.
So tell us
But
about today's show. Who do we have?
well, we've got the Black Star Riders. We've got Scott Gorman, of course, who was in Thin Lizzy for many, many years before they changed the name. And we've got a new band called Tax the Heat, a new band out of the UK. So it's a great episode. It's sort of my British rock episode. And on the Scott interview, I had sort of the other co-host of One on One join me, Russ Dwarf. And so this is the first interview that actually wasn't one on one. It was sort of a two on one. And, I'm thinking maybe as we go forward with this, I'll try to have you and Russ come on some of these interviews because it adds perspective. Russ asks Scott a question about guitars that I never would have thought of. And
Cool.
Scott's answer was really interesting. And that wouldn't have existed without Russ on the call. And of course, it was sort of Russ's first co-hosting duties since his accident coming out of Rocklahoma.
Right.
And, he's also a huge, huge fan. Thin Lizzy recorded Loud and Dangerous back in the day at two venues, one of them being in Canada. And Russ was actually at the show. So that added another little interesting wrinkle to the whole thing.
Excellent. And Scott Gorman is a guy who, plays guitar in Thin Lizzy. I mean, that's what he's most known for, as well as Black Star Riders. But he's the one guitar player that was consistent through all that Thin Lizzy stuff, whereas there were other guys who were kind of in and out of the band, like Gary Moore and John Sykes. But he's the consistent.
Yeah, he's sort of the holder of the flame in that band.
Definitely.
Now, before we listen to the interview, let's remind folks about the wonderful Heavy Montreal Festival taking place August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in Montreal, Canada, featuring Offspring, Anthrax, Twisted Sister, Lamb of God, and I'll keep saying this, my favorite, Metallica.
One of my favorites too. Love Metallica.
So
And
why
this
don't we,
is their only North American appearance, I think, this year,
for
right?
2014, the one and only. So whether you live in Los Angeles, Vancouver, Montreal, or Toronto, you got to drive and get to Heavy Montreal if you want to see Metallica this year on this continent.
Definitely. Guys, support the sponsor, Heavy Montreal. Also support Mitch with a PayPal donation. You just go to PayPal and enter Mitch's account, which is mitchminute@aol.com.
Thank you for that. And of course, Evenco, the promoter of Heavy Montreal, also has Skid Row in town August 19th at the Corona Theater. Again, I'll keep saying it. If you're not in Montreal and you are a fan of this kind of music, find Skid Row wherever they are, go to a show, support the band. And I'll say that for any band.
Yeah, and it seems nowadays with the way music sales are that going to see a band live, buying a T-shirt, a lot of times is the best way to support these bands.
Absolutely. And of course, Russ Dwarf, who's in the Killer Dwarf, and was actually going to sit in with us today and do a three-way co-hosting thing today. But he's actually currently at rehearsal for a show, his comeback performance. And so, that's the life. You got to go out there and you gotta earn it, and that's how you make your money. You got to be at
Yeah.
those shows.
Well, I'm bummed that he's not a part of this show today, but on the flip side, I'm happy to hear that he's rehearsing and that he will be soon performing a comeback show. It's exciting.
Absolutely. I think fans tuned in to listen to Scott, so why don't we just turn it over to Scott Gorham of Black Star Riders. And then after that, stick around for the second part to hear Alex Veal and Jack Taylor of Tax the Heat. Take it away.
Cool.
Got the button going here. So here we are. We're here with Scott Gorham and, of course, my co-host, Russ Dwarf. Good day, Scott. You're on the road.
Yes, we've been on the road. It seems like forever. Are you kidding me?
I know.
We've been out here for, this is week number 8. We've had every kind of weather possible. In fact, in Austin, Texas, we got hit with 3 tornadoes.
Wow.
It was so bad that the lightning and the rain and the tornadoes hitting down that unfortunately it had to be canceled. So we were a little bummed out with that, but it all seems pretty good today. So we're ready to go.
You're ready to go. So let's talk about some of the changes that are coming actually to the road. You've been there with Marco for, 15 to 20 years? Yeah.
Yep.
And now you've got Robbie Crane coming in. Now, I've known Robbie from his days in Rat. He's a phenomenal player. Tell me a little bit about how you found him and how he's going to fit into Black Star Riders.
Well, I already know he's going to fit in. He came to one of the shows, and we got him up for a sound check. We had him learn, 3 songs that were going to be pretty representative of what we were going to be doing.
Right.
He got up on stage, he killed it, and we thought, okay, we really don't need to look any further. This is the guy. And also, Jimmy DeGrasso, the drummer, he knows him really well. He's played with him before. Damon Johnson, the other guitar player, Damon, he knows him. So he's not like this sort of unknown entity.
No, not at all.
He has been he has been played with, and I know that sounds kind of weird. But
well, haven't we all been?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But so he was a known entity, but all I needed to do was hear him myself, and when I did, he was not a problem straight in. So he's going to be a great addition.
Yeah, he really is. Now, before we get talking about what happens after the tour, because I know you're talking about a new album, I do want to talk to you about the name Black Star Riders. You had been touring as Thin Lizzy, which is
right.
a very big brand name, and brands are very, very hard to come by in rock and roll.
Right.
Why would you give that up?
I've been asked that question so many times. People go, I don't get it.
Oh, but I do get it.
People are saying, you're in this huge band, you're walking away from, sold out tours, guaranteed, ticket sales, blah, blah, blah. And we all knew that what we were doing, we all knew what we were walking away from. Right. But at the same time, doing the whole Thin Lizzy thing, and me being in the band for 40 years, one of the big questions that was always being asked on every interview was, when are you going to write new music, or when are you going to bring out a new album? Now, I kept kind of deflecting that question because in my mind, I didn't really want to record under the name of Thin Lizzy because my pal Phil Lynott wasn't there.
Right.
And everything that I had ever done, Thin Lizzy-wise, Phil was always there. So to just flat out start writing and recording under the same name just didn't sit well with me at all. And when we started to write, for the album, and this thing was getting nearer and nearer to, the finishing line to have us actually get in the studio, I had to bring it up. And telling everybody how uncomfortable I was feeling with this whole thing. And it turned out that everybody else had the same feelings. They were feeling uncomfortable about it as well. So at that point, it became an easy thing to do with changing the name. And that was actually Ricky that came up with the name. Right. Ricky Warwick, he and I used to still do watch the Kurt Russell movie Tombstone, right? And in that movie, and I think I've got this right, Kurt Russell, the Wyatt Earp brothers are after this gang, and they're called the Black Star Gang. And that really hit it off really big with Ricky, except for the word gang in there. He liked the word riders because it's pretty much what we do is ride around the world. So hopefully, creating a little chaos while we're doing it. So he brought that up, and we all thought about it and thought, yeah, that fits us pretty well. So we'll go with that.
Yeah, well,
but I get what you mean about walking away from the big brand name and all that. It's not many people will probably do that,
Yeah, and I was setting up sort of the follow-up questions too. First, I wanted to say that it's tremendously courageous to do that because I've seen so many bands. I love Foreigner, and the last 2 times I've seen it, they've had no original members in the band, and they sound great, and it sounds like Foreigner to me, but there's no members. And
well, at that point, it's for my money, it just gets wrong. There, if there's nobody there that was an original member, it seems a little strange. Whereas with Lizzie, there was myself, there's Brian Downey on drums, and Darren Wharton on keyboards. So, at least half of the band is original. We were all there, while while it was going on.
Right. So the follow-up question though is, how difficult is it now to rebuild a brand name or a band name, with social media and YouTube and everything's for free? How difficult is it to actually have people go, oh yeah, I know who they are and I want to go see them?
Well, I'm not going to pretend it's not easy.
Okay.
We knew it wasn't going to be easy. The whole PR structure is completely different now. You're a lot of promoters, agents, and all. They actually rely on the whole social media thing instead of physically getting out there with a PR company and doing what you and I are doing right now. Talking and doing the interviews and all that. It is tough. And that's why we're out here. We knew it was going to be on the tough side, but we're making so many friends out here that it's worth going through the crap that you initially have to go through.
Now let's go back into your history for a second. One of the biggest live albums ever is Live and Dangerous, and of course my co-host Russ here, he was at that show at the Seneca College Fieldhouse in Don Mills, Ontario. Russ, take over.
I was at that show. I was a 17-year-old kid, and I was a huge fan of Lizzie. Obviously over here we heard The Boys Are Back in Town and everything, and we got Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox, and it was an awesome night. It was an inspirational night. Actually, I completely, had an awesome time. But I remember. A funny thing I remember from the show, because when you're a 17-year-old kid and you're just starting in a rock band, you're looking at everything, you know what I mean? You want to see the crew and them set up. And I think you were using, I hate these technical, stupid questions, but you had combo Marshall amps or something. And I think you had them, they had them all stacked in a row, and someone knocked over the whole kit and caboodle when they were setting it up. That's for some reason that sticks in my head. I don't know why. But
it's things like that. The fans. I don't know if they like to see, but it's kind of fuck ups like that really stick in your head.
Yeah.
I thought these guys were pros, man. They're knocking all their shit over. What's going on here?
I thought it was hilarious, but I absolutely. I'm like a punter now. I'm all excited to talk to you and stuff.
Right.
So.
Cool.
Well,
let me just correct you on one thing here. The majority of the Live and Dangerous album was done in London.
True.
At the Hammersmith Odeon. Now, it's true we did record some of that show where you're talking about, and I think we took 2 or 3 tracks from that show and put it on Live and Dangerous.
Right.
As in Southbound, that wasn't even done live. That was done at a sound check. We kept doing Southbound on the sound check. For some reason, we couldn't find a spot to put that particular song in, and lo and behold, we come up 1 track short, and we need another track, and that's when Tony Visconti, the producer, said, well, let's put in Southbound. It's live. There's no overdubs on that, so why don't we just put that in, and we'll cheat and slap some audience on there.
Awesome.
So that's how that got actually put on Live and Dangerous.
Yeah, and you know what I like about the album is that it sort of truly represents what Lizzie is about or was about, is this live show. Bands sound great on albums, but when they can deliver it live and take it to that next level, that's what really makes it exciting. Now, speaking of new albums, after you finish this tour, you're going to go back in the studio. When is that sort of coming out? What's the timeline on that?
Well, we're looking at getting into the studio September, October.
Right.
We're going to do this one a little differently. The last one with Kevin Shirley,
right.
We did it in 12 days. And that was a bit of a shock to the system. Although, I think we pulled it off because we had been playing live now for 3 solid years. We were able to just go and screw the bolt down our live setup and go, right? But it didn't really afford us a lot of time to work out a lot of the guitar things that we've now since worked out live wise. So this time we're going to get in the studio. We're going to take about 4 weeks in, and it should be out hopefully by I think around the February mark in 2015.
In 15. So now, just if you can. Why the importance of making an album? We've gotten into this sort of generation where everything is disposable. You go to YouTube, you see one song. You go to iTunes, you buy one song. Why is it for you, Scott, important to actually put together 10 or 12 songs and say, hey, fans, here we have an album?
Well, it's kind of obvious. If you don't do that, you won't have anything to play on stage.
No, but if you can do one song and just throw it up on iTunes and say, all right, well, see us in 3 months, we'll put up another song.
Well, yeah, you can do that, but, we want to show everybody everything that we can do all at once. If they don't buy it, that's, not great, because you don't get the whole picture of what, this certain band can do and are going to do. The idea of buying one track at a time is still alien to me. When I was a kid buying albums and all that, I wanted the whole thing. I wanted to get the whole picture of what these guys were all about, not just a snapshot. So, I think that's the reason why we want to put an album out. I still like the idea of putting an album out.
Okay.
There are things about doing it, the old ways, I still think are better than what's going on right now. Plus, we've got, so many writers in this band that to just do a track here or a track there, I think you'd probably start to get a little frustrated,
Yeah.
And the idea of actually getting in the studio and making an album, getting in there and doing this project is another whole vibe in itself. It just makes you feel like you've really accomplished something when you walk out and, hey man, check this out,
It really is. And now with the new name, Black Star Riders, when you go in and make a new album, is it sort of free to go wherever you want? If you want to do a metal song or a dance song or a pop song, you can? Or do you always have in the back of your head to say, okay, there's a Thin Lizzy fan base, we need to sort of stay within what they're comfortable with?
Well, even when we were recording as Thin Lizzy, we never thought like that.
Okay.
If you go back into the history of all the albums that we did, no album actually sounds the same as the last one. No track is actually sounding the same as the one you just heard previous. It was all down to how we were feeling at the time, how we were writing at the time, what sort of production levels we wanted to go to at the time. And it's with Black Star Riders, it's pretty much the same thing. There are a couple of tracks on the last album, All Hell Breaks Loose. That,
right.
Yeah, it does sound, a bit like Thin Lizzy, and I'm not ashamed of that at all. It's what I've been doing for the last 40 years.
Right.
So I personally can't change overnight.
No,
not that I want to. But, I think that we will always retain a bit of that Lizzy in us anyway, because, a lot of the guys grew up listening to all the albums and playing the songs, and we have been playing, Thin Lizzy for such a long time now that it's kind of in your DNA now. So to be able to, erase that, even if you wanted to, would be kind of a tough thing to do.
It really would be. Are you going to go back in with Kevin Shirley?
No, we've done our stint with Kevin. I love him to death. He's a great producer. We're going to go down another road. There's a couple of guys we're talking to right now that we really, really like. They really, really like us. So which of the two guys we pick is going to be a great fit. So we're all really looking forward to getting into the studio and getting number 2 out.
Why not?
Does that sound right? Getting number 2 out.
Well, listen, it also depends on the context when you say that sentence. But is there any thought, or put it this way, why not self-produce? You've been in the business for 40 years. I think you know what a good song sounds like, right?
Sure.
Why not just get in there and go, I'm going to do this? Why that extra set of ears, and why is that important to you?
Well, you always need, a guy behind the desk that's all he does.
Right.
He's paying attention 100% to what everybody is doing. Being a musician, you tend to just listen to yourself, or a little bit of the other guys, or a little bit of this. Where the producer, it's all eyes focused on the whole picture. And plus, there's a certain sound that you want to get, and these guys know how to get it.
Okay.
In an instant, So there's like a trust thing there that when you're in, and you've got your guitar, up, your volume is up. This guy behind the desk is getting the sound that you want, and what the song needs.
Any interest?
So that's the reason, really.
Any interest for yourself to produce other bands then?
Not in particular. We're out on the road so much. I don't think I would ever have time to do something like that. I have done it in the past, and I've had a lot of fun with it. But the problem with trying to balance 2 careers, it's just too daunting. It's such a hard thing to do, the balancing act of coming off the road and spending X amount of time with another band and their music, and then knowing you got to go back on the road for X amount of time. That's a high energy and high level kind of thing you have to get into. I know there's guys that do it, and man, I respect the hell out of them for having that kind of energy. I just don't think that I would, so I don't.
Now, the Monsters of Rock tour, Russ just played with his band on it in 2014. You guys are on it in 2015. Are you looking forward to actually being on a boat and stuck with all the fans and playing the music? How is that? How do you prepare for that differently than actual shows and touring?
Well, we've done it twice before, right? But the first time we did it was an absolute horrible experience. It was just this drunk tank, and you were like slapped right in the middle of it, right?
Is that about right, Russ?
Yeah, I've done 2 of them. I did an acoustic one, 2013, and I did this year with the band. And yeah,
it's a drunk tank.
The Monsters of Rock.
Well, they call it the booze cruise.
Yeah,
it's not a bad thing, right? But the second one we did, we were in a separate part of the boats, which a lot of these are, and so all the fans and all that, they can get out and have a great time, where we're able to go to a different section of the boat and just kind of chill out before and after the shows.
That's the same with Monsters of Rock Cruise. They're super organized. Yeah. Really, really well done.
Now
so they turn out to be a hell of a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. And we're coming up to the 20-minute mark. Russ, any last questions? I know that. I know.
There's got to be one, man.
Scott, I got to be honest. Russ is sort of this diehard fan. It's sort of as if I would be interviewing Paul Stanley right now, and he loves you more than anything. I mean, he's been in the Canadian music business for 30-some years, and all this. They're going into the Hall of Fame in September. Our Hall of Fame in September.
Wow!
But he started off seeing you when he was 17 years old. So this is a big thrill for him.
I've been a fan since I was 13 years old. I'm a huge fan, and I'm your music has inspired me, and Phil, his lyrics, and just the whole attitude of the band is
Thank you.
It's very special to me. You know what I mean? I don't want to get all maudlin and crazy. You know, I could ask you like a stupid question, like how many Les Pauls do you have?
All right. I will say right now I've got. I think I've got 6.
Wow.
6 Les Pauls. I've got 3 Stratocasters, and then a couple of odds and ends ones. I used to have, and it was crazy. I used to have something like 45 or 47 guitars, all in their packing cases. And for some reason, I didn't put them in a lockup area. I kept them in this one bedroom.
Crazy.
And my wife came in one day and she says, "What the fuck, man? You actually play all these guitars?" And I was like sheepishly, "Well, no."
Yeah.
Goes, why don't you do this? Why don't you pick 10 and get rid of the rest of them?
That sounds.
And she was right. You know,
it sounds exactly like my house. I'm not allowed to bring any more in the house. So
you know, I ended up giving a whole bunch away, or going down to some guitar shop, put a bunch on consignment. So I usually end up with probably about 15 or 16 guitars, and I figure if I can't do it with them, then I can't do it at all.
But you're totally known for the Les Paul. That's basically your signature. Like if you're a true Lizzie fan or Black Star Rider fan, or a fan of you personally, you know that's your. You know, you
claim to fame.
Yeah, I think
that's my main thing. I love the Les Paul. I love the feel of the quality. You know, the sound. It's pretty tough to beat an honest to God Les Paul Standard, whatever. You know, they're just good quality guitars.
Yeah, well, you have an awesome tone, and with the Crybaby and everything, it's you know you're singing, it's talking, it's beautiful.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to get up to Canada more often.
You really do, and we both know promoters up here, so I think between Russ and I, we could probably finagle a couple of shows for you.
Well, I saw you with Thin Lizzy, like obviously in '77, but you were here a couple of years ago in downtown Toronto at a place called the Docks, the Sound Academy. I was at that show, and when you guys were under the Thin Lizzy moniker, you know, it was
I saw that show too.
Fabulous show. Totally enjoyed that. You know.
Oh, thanks.
And it's a great tribute, and you guys have so much respect for Phil. It's an incredible night. Like if you're a huge fan, you know what I mean. You guys have touched so many people. It's amazing.
You really are.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I need as much of that as possible. You know.
And I'll finish with these two things. Of course, make sure everybody goes to blackstarriders.com. But I need to ask you about Damon Johnson. I've known Damon way back in the day, from Brother Kane into Alice Cooper. Just the sweetest person you could ever meet, an absolute, wonderful human being. There's really no other words for him. He's just aces.
Well, you know, Damon, like you're saying, he's such a great guy. Mm-hmm. But then in Damon, you get a great musician at the same time.
Well, that's it. What does he add to the band?
What does he add?
Yeah.
Oh God, his musicality is unbelievable. He'll come to me and say, "Hey Scott, you know that solo you did in Downtown Sundown?" I go, yeah, kinda. And he's already memorized it. He's learned it, and I'm going to him, going, "So how did I do that now?" Right. I mean, he's that good. He can listen to one thing and just kind of pump it out in a moment's notice, right? You know, Damon has a real. A calming sense of when you're up on stage. All I need to do is look over at Damon, and I go, okay, it's all right. Everything's good, you know. He's just one of those guys. You cannot, I defy anybody to not like Damon Johnson.
No, it's not possible. And, I'm a huge Alice Cooper fan, and losing him to Black Star Riders, to me, was tragic, because he just added so much to Cooper. But you know what? Now I've got two bands that are great. So, thanks to Damon, and thanks to you.
I feel a little guilty.
Don't do that again, please.
Yeah, because I actually really did steal Damon from Alice. And Alice is such a nice guy, also, and I did feel bad about that. On the other sense, I didn't feel bad at all.
Right.
So I'm kind of in between on the guilty thing there. You know?
Well, great. So we're at 25 minutes. So I just want to thank you for your time, and of course, remind everybody, Black Star Riders, catch the tour, new album 2015. Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure, and
Cool,
thank you,
man. You
Russ.
guys are great. It's great talking with you guys. I love talking with you. So thank you very much, man.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Scott, for everything. That was awesome.
Okay, man. All right, we'll catch you guys as soon as possible, okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
So there you go. You have Scott Gorham telling us about his guitars, about the brand name, and having this personal discussion with Russ about having been at that show that makes up a part of Live and Dangerous. Now, coming up in the next little bit is Tax the Heat. They're part of the same management team as Black Star Riders, and they're going to be on tour all through the summer in Europe with the Black Star Riders. And so, like I mentioned before, I spoke to Jack and Alex of the band. And why don't we listen to that now?
Sounds good, Mitch.
We are here with Tax the Heat, a new band out of, I guess, England, right?
That's correct.
And we're talking with drummer Jack Taylor and vocalist and guitar player Alex Veal.
That's right.
Welcome, guys. Now, you know, there's a lot of great stuff to talk about. You've got a new EP out there called the Chris Goss Sessions. And of course,
it's an EP that we recorded with Chris Goss, who's done loads of records, but he did a lot of the Queens of the Stone Age records, and we recorded it with him in the UK last year.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that because actually coming to Montreal in less than a month, are Queens of the Stone Age. And so how was it working with Chris on that?
It was absolutely amazing because when we started the band, we sort of put together a list of producers we thought would be appropriate to produce Tax the Heat, and also our favourite producers as well. And he was on the top of the list for all of us.
Yeah.
So we started demoing some things, and through management who already had a relationship with him from a while ago. They knew he was pretty busy, but they sent him the demos and they said, "Look, we know you're busy. Could you recommend somebody who produces like you for this band?" And he sort of got straight back to him and said, "I want to produce it." So we were really, really thrilled by that. And he came over to the UK, and working with him was an absolute dream. He sort of really got inside the songs and pushed us as musicians, and everything was better for it, really. It was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, really, and it sounds great. Now,
Cool.
for fans over here that may not know Tax the Heat, what kind of music can they expect from the band?
It's kind of very heavily influenced by sort of old Brit rock bands from sort of 1960s, late 60s, early 70s, like The Who, and also stuff like the Hendrix Experience and all kinds of things like that. But we're also like doing something new with it as well, trying to put our own stamp on it, and it's all about kind of capturing an energy that you get from a live rock band. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe, really.
So let me ask you about getting a band off the ground. You know, so many people now are YouTube stars, and everybody has a Twitter account and a Facebook, and you know, accidents in the background.
Sorry, I'm just throwing stuff at Jack. Don't worry.
Well, that's so very rock and roll. I'm assuming you're destroying a hotel room while we're speaking.
That's something like that. Yeah, it's definitely not a spoon falling out of a cup of tea. It's definitely not that.
No, because that would well, of course, that would be perfectly British. But let's talk about how do we
be too British, wouldn't it?
No, how do we get a new band off the ground? I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, the manager came out, he signed you, he brought you over to a record company, they invested a whole bunch of money, the record hit the vinyl was released. And, off went their career. How is it for Tax the Heat? What do you got to do now?
Sure. Well, obviously, there's still an element of that kind of similar aspect to it, but there's a lot of people out there doing it now. There's loads and loads of bands, and it's just finding a way in and a way to
to get to the people that might want to listen to your music and hopefully want to buy the music and come to the shows and support your band. I think we were very lucky early on to get a really good management team behind us, which we got through, I guess, persisting with sending out demos and what we were working on as a band, and they took us on, and then we were also very lucky to get a good booking agent who can book us into some gigs, and really that is the way that you have to do it. Get out there and play for the people, and just play as much as you can and get your music in front of as many people as possible, I think.
Yeah, and it took a long time to find the right people involved. Because Jack and I, we knew each other from school, but we hadn't seen each other for a few years. So we just started jamming, and we were demoing stuff up for about a year and a half. And rehearsing up with Antonio and JP, the other guys who we met after auditioning a few people, and it just kind of clicked. So it was a long process, and we definitely were very conscious that we wanted to get everything about it right, because we'd all been in bands before, and everybody knows how tough it is to be sort of, to get seen and heard and stuff. So yeah, we thought about every kind of inch of it, really.
Yeah, so Alex, let me ask you first, and then over to Jack. So how important is the live show these days? You know, in the 70s, the live show was everything. In the 80s, it became MTV. And then in the 90s and later on, it sort of was a combination of both. But now it really seems to be the live show again, right?
I completely agree. I think it's all about the live show. There's bands that are focusing more on YouTube and other elements of it and just not quite delivering live. And I think they're kind of getting lost. And we're all about the live show and capturing that energy. So, like, you're there, you're into it, you're part of it with the band. You can feel exactly what's happening. And at the moment, where we're doing a lot of support slots on tours, you only really get sort of 25, 30 minutes to prove yourselves and make a mark. So we're just trying to cram as much energy into it and really hitting it hard. It is all about the live show for me.
Yeah, same for you, Jack?
Yeah, absolutely. I would totally agree with that. I mean, there's obviously a big grey area in the music industry at the moment over the whole record sales and digital downloads and all that stuff, and it really has become massively about the live show and getting out there and doing that. And we really, the essence that we take from those 60s bands that we look back to, really, people like the Yardbirds and the Kinks, is the energy that they brought to that music at that time. And we want to do that same thing, but obviously give it a new flavour so that it's still got that high energy impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you know, you're doing a lot of gigs around the UK. What's sort of the long-term plan to get you over to the States and to Canada and even over into the Asian market like Japan? What's the game plan?
I think it's probably, at the moment, we're sort of building up a bit of a buzz at home, and we've been doing that quite well over the last especially the last 6 months of this year with these with the festival slots that we've been doing, and it's definitely building up nicely. We're currently writing a lot, so I think the thing that will pull us over to the different continents really is going to be a record, our debut full-length album. Right. And I mean, it's something that we all really, really want to do. You can't really do it without backing, because it is such an expense to do it. But there's certainly a lot of interest surrounding the band, and it's a very exciting time. So hopefully we will be over to all those places in the not too distant future.
Yeah, you know, let me ask this, and I'll go again, Alex first, and we'll go over to Jack after. Why is it important to make an album? You know, it seems to be sort of a lost art. Do people really want to sit and listen to 12 songs? I certainly do. But I think younger fans, a lot of them, they go for that one song. Why is it important for you to put together a collection of songs and put it out as an album?
Yeah, it's a good point, because a lot of people do that. A lot of people are just downloading singles, and that's all they want to do. For me, I am a massive fan of the album as an art form. I think if it ever got lost, it would be criminal, really. Yeah. So we will we will certainly be making a record, and I also think it's about an experience. You don't you see it as a full thing, as a bit of a journey, and hopefully people will kind of get that as well. Some people may want to just do the odd track or get the odd track and come to a show. That's fine, but I mean, I think generally it's. I think the first record, especially, is going to be a full statement of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's the same for you, Jack?
Yeah, I'd have a little kind of slightly different aspect on that. I think one thing to note is with our band is that we are all massive music fans. Yeah. We all listen to loads and loads of music, and it's really, really our passion. Now I can speak for me and Alex. We listen to a lot of music on vinyl, and we listen to a lot of old music, and it is the best way to listen to it. And I think that if we were going in to record an album, I think a large part of it would be thinking about how that would end up on a vinyl, and getting that LP pressed.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because that speaks to how you're going to record it. Do you go in there and do it very clean digitally with Pro Tools, or do you go back sort of 2-inch reel and really sort of get that classic vibe? Do you have any preferences there?
I think ultimately we would love to try tracking with 2-inch tape, and we've put stuff like the EP, for example, was tracked in digital, but through like analog outboard and really nice old mic pre's and vintage gear into Pro Tools, and then put back onto tape. But I think ultimately we would like to do it again. It's an expense to do that at the moment, which seems strange. Because it's sort of a bit of a lost art, but yeah, we'd love to do that. Like, I mean, obviously, people like Jack White. I know he's a big kind of advocate of that, and it's definitely a big fat sound if you can do it. So, but we're all about tracking live as well, and getting those moments captured in the studio. So I think it would really lend itself to the music that we're making.
Yeah, I think it really would, because I did get that classic vibe from the songs I've heard. And you know what, as far as being an expense, I have always said to rock bands, no, it's an investment. It's not an expense. It's an investment in your career. Speaking of somebody who's had a long career and who was on the show here at part one of my show today is Scott Gorham, who, of course, with Black Star Riders, he said on VH1's That Metal show not too long ago that you were his favorite new band.
He did.
High praise indeed.
Yes, isn't it? Yeah. It was quite amazing when we heard that he said that. We got a message from someone in the States to say that they'd seen it and they'd heard him say it, and then it was a while until we actually got a chance to see the footage, because it's quite difficult to get hold of in the UK. Yeah. But yeah, amazing.
Were you Thin Lizzy fans?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I was brought up on Thin Lizzy.
And of course, you've toured with Black Star Riders.
We will be touring with Black Star Riders in July and August,
Good times.
Yeah, which is great, which is amazing.
Any last words? Obviously, they should check out taxtheheat.com, and of course, not the internet, I was going to say the Twitter and the Facebook. Anything else?
Just kind of spread the word. Join the mailing list on the website. That's easy to sign up to, and we're hoping to be, like I said, reaching out to as many places and people as we can over the next couple of years. So definitely sort of get involved now, and it's going to be a ride.
We'll see you along the way.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where, as a fan, you have a chance to jump on board and be one of those 20 years down the road and say, I was there at the first gig, so...
Well, hopefully so.
Let's hope. I mean, musically, I think it's certainly good enough music, or it's great music that's going to last, so just need the fan support, right?
Thanks a lot,
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thank you so much, Mitch.
Well, that just about wraps up another episode of One on One with Mitch Lafon. We just heard Mitch's interview with Tax the Heat, and earlier in the episode, we heard Russ Dwarf and Mitch interview Scott Gorham of Thin Lizzy and Black Star Riders fame.
Yeah, and you know, both great interviews. You know, I've actually checked out the Tax the Heat music, and they seem to have something. You know,
Cool.
I really wish them well, and I'm glad that I was on the ground floor as they break and move into the future, quite frankly. But you know, speaking of bands that have already broken, don't forget Heavy Montreal, August 9th and 10th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal with Metallica, Slayer, and a slew of other artists. And coming up in July, it is going to be Canada Day, July 1st. So we've got a bunch of Canadian hard rock metal episodes coming up. Interviews with Darby Mills of the Headpins, who talks about touring with Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour. Lee Aaron, the Metal Queen. You don't need really to say anything more. All you have to say is Lee Aaron, Metal Queen. That's all you need to know.
Yes.
Because she is sort of Canadians' ambassador to hard rock, heavy metal.
And is she still out there doing it?
You bet. That's where Sean Kelly of 4 by Fate is tonight.
Wow.
They're
Okay.
playing a show out west. So yeah,
Excellent.
she's still working it, and she still sounds great. And of course, having Sean Kelly on guitar just makes her sound that much better.
Yeah, great player.
We've also got Rick Hughes of Sword coming up. And Sword, of course, Rick talks about touring with Metallica back in the 80s. The band opened for Metallica. Who else do we have? We have Jason Rockman, Slaves on Dope, tells us a little bit about their adventures on the Ozfest in the 90s. And, you know, just a bunch of great Canadian content coming up. Russ Dwarf of the Killer Dwarfs is going to join us on those episodes, as is Metal Tim Henderson of Brave Words and Bloody Knuckles, also bravewords.com, who's going to talk about his magazine and his website and his take on Canadian metal from his perspective all the way from the 80s, 90s, and up to now. So There's a lot of great Canuck content coming up.
Very good. And Brave Words, such a great site. I mean, I go to Brave Words, I would say at least twice a day, every day of my life. So it's the place to get all the best hard rock and heavy metal news.
And of course, listen, we can't forget, they support us incredibly. Often I see Victor Ruiz's Mars Attack podcast mentioned on Brave Words. I see Talking Metal mentioned on Brave Words. And of course, my stuff, one-on-one with Mitch Lafon. And when I write stuff, well, they post it. So a lot of respect and I'll say it, a lot of love for bravewords.com.
Absolutely. Definitely. And guys, we'd love to have you check out Talking Metal Digital. We have other shows, not just this one. We have, of course, my show, Talking Metal. We have Victor Ruiz on Mars Attacks, as Mitch just mentioned. And we have a show called Talking Rock. And I think hopefully soon we'll add some other shows. But right now it's just those 4 shows, and you can get them all on talkingmetaldigital.com.
There you go. Thank you, folks.